This is Visions Under Construction. A chance for our guests to share their visions and tell us what they're working on. Or not. For their continued support, we'd like to thank Simwood.com, who can turn you as a developer into a telco. Why not make CloudOnyx your communication partner? Go to cloudonyx.io. You can find everything about the VUC at VUC.me, thanks to Bluehost, and thanks also to ZipDX.com, the conference bridge, and to Voxbone.com for local rate dial-ins. And we'd love to hear from you, so just write this down. Operators are standing by to take your messages at VUC.me, sorry. Anyway, we have a really illustrious panel with us. As soon as I've done the video switching, I will let you know that to my extreme left, Mr. Andy Smith, who I won't spotlight because he doesn't want to show himself. Corrado Mela.
Hello.
Glad you're here. Corrado and I were just talking about storage, and of course, Michael Graves, who looks pensive.
No, it's expensive.
That too. Not cheap in any case. And of course, your humble servant, Randy. Michael, Corrado and I were already just talking about this, and I don't know if Andy was a part of it, but he will have things to say too. I was looking into this new storage, cloud, I said it. AI, cloud, and what am I missing? Blockchain. I got this new AI blockchain.
There you go. It's clickbait. That's all clickbait.
Anyway, cloud storage. Why don't we just start with you on what storage? What are you doing for backup and storage of large objects? I'm sure you have local. What do you have local? What do you have cloud, if anything?
We have a FreeNAS Mini, which came to us recommended with great fervor by Carl Fife, you know, and we've had it for a while, and we like it just fine. Not cheap, but it is a local NAS, and it's got 10 terabytes on it. Has never been upgraded. It's got
multiple drives?
Yeah, 4 drives, 10 terabytes. 8 terabytes. 8 terabytes, I think. But, you know, we don't have that much stuff. However, and that gets selectively synchronized to Dropbox.
Dropbox. That is, paid Dropbox, yeah, obviously.
A paid Dropbox, and we have several paid Dropbox accounts, which is probably not the smart way to do it, but it's automatic, and we like that.
That's interesting.
I would like to explore things like Carbonite or some of these Backblaze, some of these other things, but I just haven't had the time.
I've tried a bunch of them, and I'll comment very briefly on them. But moving further left to Scotland.
Yeah.
Corrado, what do you have local and what do you have remote?
Well, one thing for disaster recovery, I keep everything local because if there is a disaster, you might not be able to reach your cloud services.
Right.
So locally, at home, I have a little NAS in RIDE for the family. But here in the office, where I also manage the entire IT for the building, we have a large storage unit with a RIDE 5. It's, again, a free NAS-based unit with a large bunch of disks in RIDE. And for my business, I have, as I said, beer. A paid pCloud account with 0.5 terabyte of space for life, lifetime, as in lifetime of 99 years or my own lifetime, and that was cheap with the offers for Black Friday.
How do you think they do that, Corrado? That's actually a very good deal, of course. How? Well, I guess they're betting maybe on the fact that storage, everything will get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Yes.
Maybe that's it.
Yes, of course. And buying cloud storage in bulk for companies, yes. But the company that I have the cloud storage with is pCloud, I don't remember exactly where it is. It should be in Germany, but the servers are in a tunnel under the Swiss Alps. It's also zero greenhouse gas impact because it's cooled. It's in these tunnels under the Alps, so there's no need for cooling.
I know, knowing the engineer that you are, you must have measured the ping time and the flow. So what's that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely reliable. So far, I had 100% uptime. It's been 2.5 years, not a second down. All the critical things that I have for business have a smoke ping on it. So if there's anything that is not keeping up to the standards, is progressively downgraded. I had a few problems with Dropbox, albeit not a business account, just a personal account. So that went a bit down.
Free account, you're saying, or not?
Yes, a free account. Apart from that, yeah, local storage, external drives for on the spot, on the hoof backups of any type. A big server in this shared office that is used by everyone, and a small NAS at home. That is also a media server.
Media server. Oh, watching movies at work, huh?
No. At home.
Oh, at home, the media server. Andy, do you want to comment? I know you're muted, and
I don't think there's an awful lot of point, to be honest. In that, I sit here with a PC with 256 gigs of RAM in it. It's not RAM, storage on it, and a work G drive, and that's it. I don't use anything else. I don't have any local NAS. I don't store films or anything else on anywhere. I have some photos, but they're just on USB sticks. They're fine. I don't understand what all the fuss is about.
No.
The fuss is if you have a business, of course, or if you're really big on photos. You know, I have, like everybody else with digital cameras and phones, I have hundreds of thousands of photos. They could probably be gotten down to 1,000 photos that are of any interest at all to anyone. But I'm not worried about it. If all the photos disappear, I lived it, and I'm not a big, photo. It's not a big deal. But I get it, and I'm kind of like you. I've been lax, but every once in a while you get bit by that, right? Where you had a file, you learned to do something, or you recorded something. Of course, I got a lot of music, and then you deleted it, or you can't find it, or something. So when we were running the office, I had local backups that I would trade between the office and home, which was about a 20-minute walk. So we had, because your backups in one place where the computers are, of course, if you have a fire, those backups are useless, just like the computer will be. So you've got to have some solution, but we had off-site storage. And then we used a thing called Jungle Drive. Speaking of Service for Life, Jungle Drive, when they first started, and they work with S3, by the way, Jungle Drive was I think there was a one-time payment. I don't even remember whether it was free or one-time payment for life, but it still works. And I have other S3 is Amazon AWS, S3 solutions, but I just heard about a thing. Oh, and also most recently for my wife, especially, we wanted a transparent solution. So we're using Google Drive and Google Sync. But as I told you a few minutes ago, Corrado, I think, Google drops projects like they were nothing. So someday you could just wake up and, oh, Google Sync, you're using Google Sync. Well, January 1st of, such year, we can't offer that service anymore. So that doesn't seem to be the best. It's a good day-to-day, and it's not expensive. Even if you bought storage at Google, it's not super expensive. Much more expensive than the one you just mentioned, though. The new thing I heard about is called Wasabi. It's so new that if you type in Wasabi, you'll never get far enough past the Japanese spice of wasabi. So you have to have like Wasabi cloud storage or something. And I can't remember what the TLD is. So it's Wasabi something.
It's probably not wasabi.com. That'll probably bring you to some kind of sushi thing. Anyway, they had an interesting proposal. I'm trying them for the next month. It on Windows and Mac in that world, they can just be mounted as drives and they look like drives. So you just bung whatever you want to save over there. There is no sync. There's a company called Cloudberry that has a lifetime license of $30, I understand. And they will talk to this thing and do a sync. In other words, they do a backup to AWS. They'll do a backup to Wasabi and about 10 other services. So that's Cloudberry. However, I tried their backup and I didn't like the software, so I didn't pursue it. Nothing wrong with it. It just didn't speak to me. So I'm testing the Wasabi thing. But what's interesting about it is they claim to be 80% cheaper than Amazon storage. And that's Amazon storage isn't expensive already. So the fact that they claim that, the figure I've got is about $5, about £4 a month for 1 terabyte. And there is no charge for what they call egress, which is downloading. I didn't see any charge for uploading, but they made a big deal out of egress. I guess because Amazon doesn't charge for uploading, right? They only charge for download, I think.
Well, if I can comment, all the things you said about that service are the same for pCloud. I don't get any money from them. Don't. I'm really happy with that because they have a native client for every platform: iOS, Android, Macintosh, Windows, Linux, and they practically sync a folder if you want to sync it. Otherwise, it creates a drive, a P drive, on your computer or device, and it's like a local drive, and that is compliant with many applications that need a local drive to operate. So I practically dump all the business documents, everything on that drive, and I have that everywhere with me.
I could never talk seriously about, just put it on the P drive. For some reason that makes me uncomfortable.
P doesn't stand for some liquid extraction, but for privacy. Because they are based in Switzerland, they are bound to some stringent privacy laws that are the same that apply to Swiss banks, and we know how secretive they are. So the guarantee of privacy, I looked at them because they were using strict privacy even before GDPR.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more stringent than the Data Protection Act that was in place when I looked for cloud services. That's all.
So, and you've been with them for 2 years. How much, do you have any idea how much data you've got up there?
No, I've been with them for 9 years now, since 2010, almost 9 years. And I had 20 gig free, and I was a 17 gig now. So I have upgraded to the lifetime half a terabyte plan. Now I have about 20 gig of documents over there. It's practically my business backup, and it's a duplication. I have all the files locally and replicated on the cloud, and I can replicate them locally anywhere else I install the client, and I can pick and choose which folders I download on the other devices. So I can hop on from a computer to another, even a computer I don't own. I just log in through the web interface. I have access to all my business files. That's really ubiquity. I can be wherever I am.
Right. Now, we're not getting paid for this. I'm just looking.
Again, yes.
No, I mean, I'm not, and you're not. I don't know.
No. There are affiliate links, but I'm not into that kind of stuff.
Should have signed up first, right? Now, all kidding aside, here's the ubiquitous, I accept the cookies. Well, the fact that Uber works for them works with their service is not, I would take that off if I were them. Video tour, we don't want, but anyway. So you get 10 gigs free. Is that as long as you, I mean, that's, you had 20, but that was when they were a little more.
No. You can add on free other space if you go through a number of different steps, including linking your Google Photos and so on.
Lifetime's now 175. So the deal you got was a special deal for Black Friday. Uh-oh, I'm not here. Am I here? And
no, he's frozen.
Okay. He got a special deal apparently because he was talking about 100. Well, that's euros.
Well, and
they automatically
Dropbox is comparatively cheap, right? Because it's like $99 for a terabyte. I accept that it's not the most reliable thing in the world, and I have issues with its installable client sometimes. But it's okay.
Well, just out of quick comparison, their premium service, well, premium plus 2 terabytes, is equivalent to the Wasabi price. 4 euros a month, which is about $5 for 500 gigs, is not a great price on Dropbox.
Here's the thing that I found interesting, because I stumbled across this some months ago when, in my role in our civic association, I was tasked with finding some sort of data storage and sharing solution. You can go to these dedicated services that do this sort of stuff, and that all is fine, but you're pretty quickly spending as much money for just the data storage aspect as if you had gone and signed up for G Suite or for Office 365, which is a more all-encompassing solution. Now, that may be simplistic, but before you know it, you're into $10 per user per month. And it's like, okay, well, if you're going to spend that much money, maybe you get more stuff.
Well, what I see on Dropbox is that there is a per user, whereas, which I didn't even know about, whereas on Wasabi and the thing, well, I don't know. We have to ask Corrado when he comes back. I'm just trying to be fair, so I put Dropbox up. I love when they do that.
Right.
What was Wasabi? Let's see if we can get that real quick.
There's also Box.net I looked at.
Yep.
And like Zoho, which is a sort of an Office 365 competitor, had something.
All right, so they're unlimited. I love unlimited egress pricing plan. I like that. What they mean is that there's no charge for downloading this stuff. Yeah, no battery backup. So Corrado will be back with us. Here's, if you want.
He lost power?
Yeah, he said he lost power. He was in the wire room. All right, they're comparing to Amazon. Check this out. I found this interesting. So let's say you're doing 2 terabytes, or I can't even get it. There we go. That's 10 a month or 119 a year. And then they compare Azure, AWS, and whatever this is. I can't read it. Does that say Google? I can't even see.
That's Google. That's Google.
Funny logo. Google what, though? I can't read what it says.
Google Cloud Platform, GCP.
Okay, Google Cloud Platform. Anyway, Corrado's coming back. I found that interesting. You mentioned Box.net. That's true. Let's take a quick look. We have no affiliation here. Box.net. Get started. Price. Platform. Blah blah blah. Pricing. Starter. They don't have a free plan apparently. I thought they did. I was sure they did. In fact.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm sure I've got one. Also, there was copy something. Remember that?
Well, there used to be a lot of file transfer services that I used to use, like to just temporary storage to send a big file as a relay, so you could send a link. But Dropbox kind of eliminated all of that. Well, Dropbox and their ilk. I will say, Dropbox was one of a handful of things that revolutionized the way I worked when I worked at Pixel Power before, and the entire company ended up adopting it as the way they did things.
Yeah, they were early in the game. Box.net too, I think, was one of the very first ones.
Yeah,
but I mean,
and back when a gigabyte was a lot of data, right? Back when gigs were bunches of data. Now a gigabyte, somebody says to me 30 gig, I'm like, I got flash drives bigger than that. I don't mean much. If it's not a terabyte, I'm not interested.
Let me see if I can find this.
Because the quintessential problem is, how do you back up a multi-terabyte local NAS?
Yeah, that's a problem.
And that is another multi-terabyte NAS off-site, preferably.
Precisely. Let me see if I can find the retro computing. I don't think I mentioned this last week when we were talking to the diaspora folks, but I've got if I could find it among all this.
Incidentally, and keeping with Corrado's recent experience of loss of power, you may not recognize, but I moved my desk a couple weeks back over to its wintertime position.
Yeah, it's a totally different setup you've got
in the office, and in so doing, I discovered that the batteries in my little UPS that keeps my desktop protected were faulty. And because normally I literally take this sit-stand desk, which is on Teflon sliders, and sort of push it across the room. And I only have to switch the power, which takes like a few seconds. But since everything's plugged into UPS, it's no big deal, except in this particular instance, I unplugged the UPS and everything went down hard. And it was literally the batteries had failed in the UPS, and so I ordered replacements.
There's always something. I had a UPS in our other place, and it died as well. Here's what I was talking about before. Let me find it.
We were exactly speaking about disaster recovery. Yeah, I'm not prepared for disaster, as you can see.
Yeah, well, hopefully everything was okay, because a lot of times when power goes off, you know what happens. Here's a hard disk subsystem, 20 megabytes for under $3,500, which would be about double today. That would be about $7,000 for 20 megabytes.
Does any of you remember Winchester drives?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right before
yes.
Oh, yes.
My first, I can't remember if my first computer had an MFM drive. I don't think it was a Winchester, but MFM drives were directly.
I remember small MFM drives in PCs. No, I remember a thing the size of a dishwasher.
Oh,
actually, we called them DASDs,
which
is the mainframe terminology, direct access storage device.
Big things that they had some sort of a plastic bell on top. You could see the discs thick, that big, on top of.
We had that.
You could swap them around.
We had that where I used to work, and I came in Saturday and did backups. It was 300 megs. Only.
Yeah,
the disc.
My first hard drive was a 20 meg hard drive, a 20 meg MFM drive by Western Digital. Very expensive. Yes. Yeah.
Let the engineer tell us what MFM stands for. Something modulation. Probably modulation.
You don't want me to make something up. It'll be too colorful for.
I don't know what MFM stands for.
You know, but do you remember it had two ribbons, two different connectors? Yeah, one for one for the command and the other for data. Yeah.
Wow.
I do recall that things like Bernoulli drives. With removable cartridges of 20 megs or 10 megs or
oh god, in broadcasting they were everywhere. That was the way you moved sports graphics between production trucks, like football and American football. Is you'd have a 44 meg Bernoulli cartridge and you would run it around.
So they were surprisingly reliable, really. It was one of those things that you thought, hang on, you're using the Bernoulli effect for this? You're actually physically warping the drive? But it worked.
Well, they're flexible drives, and when they spun fast enough, they got rigid, right?
Yeah, right.
Do you remember Fujitsu's magneto-optical drives? The little 3.5-inch MOs that were in little cartridges.
Right
those were great.
Right?
No, they were right once. There were also rewritable ones. When I started using them, which would be in like 1994, little Fujitsu MOs, 500 megabyte MOs were like high capacity, reasonably quick backup, a 3.5-inch in a cartridge. Very expensive and connected via SCSI.
Right. we're moving into tech moan territory. I don't know if you follow the guy.
Yeah.
Or retro computing, yeah.
Not just retro
Hey,
computing, retro everything, retro support, retro digital, retro electronics, retro audio, everything.
Hey, you criticize my 8-track.
So who has the biggest solid state drive?
Hang on. 8-track. Hang on. Yeah, hear this. Listen to this. Sound of an 8-track changing channels.
Excellent. That's exactly right.
Thump.
Boom.
There's a huge resurgence right now. There's a very fast growing group on Facebook that is vintage cassette players, that are people who have like cassette decks, and it's the fastest growing audio medium right now. It's actually outpacing vinyl.
What possible excuse could there be for that?
Compact. It's the name, compact cassette.
Nostalgia.
This is where we need Bob Bowles to be here with demonstration of his reel-to-reels.
All them up, yeah.
Yeah. Reel-to-reels have some serious money, although as Studer Revox found out, I think in Switzerland, I think they are, aren't they? They tried to bring back open reel players 2 years ago, and to do that, they started selling 1/4-inch 2-track copies of master recordings.
The Beatles' White Album.
No, actually, well, they were doing local recordings there, and they had some studios set up to do like some classical recordings and jazz recordings and stuff. And they had a small library that they were going to sell using an online store of their own creation, but they couldn't get enough inertia. They couldn't get enough movement going to actually make the decks. The decks were derived from the glorious Studer A820s, but on a new platform. The decks were going to be like $12,000 though.
Ouch.
They were going after the people who were doing, high def audio stuff. And I gotta say though, pretty like an Italian sports car. I mean, just that Negra and Studer stuff, really beautifully engineered. Just wonderful.
That's true. Well, maybe Neil Young, speaking of high definition audio, would be interested in those, since he's got his own lossless player or whatever.
But well, that's dead. but isn't it funny that the guy who strains and struggles to get exactly the right distorted guitar sound then has to concern himself about transparency of the delivery channel?
That is the ultimate irony, yeah.
Well, with all the time it takes to get the exact sound he wants, practically ringing the neck of everything, you want that to be reproduced faithfully.
I buy that if we're talking about Tom Schultz and Boston's first album. I don't buy it when we're talking about Neil Young.
No. Self-importance now.
Yeah. Question for you gentlemen. Well, hang on. Have you, going back to something, do you guys track WebRTC, any of the mailing lists or whatnot?
That's kind of fallen out of my, yeah.
Okay. No. Apparently there was a fairly big deal where some of the most common of these guys, decked cordless headsets, had a serious bug. The Jabra ones had a serious bug when Chrome was dealing with audio from them. And it rendered them unusable.
So Carl Fife would be unhappy for sure.
Yeah, because he liked the Jabras quite a lot. It happens that I don't use them, but it was weird though, because it was only a particular couple of releases of Chrome, and only when used with 3 different headsets. 2 were Jabra, 1 was from Logitech, and the commonality was they were all decked cordless headsets. Which, because they were decked cordless headsets, they operated in a slightly different way than anything else. And the folks at Chrome, or the folks at Google who wrote the WebRTC code, kind of had never considered that.
Right.
So, interesting.
So we're all guinea pigs now. It's Google, it's Microsoft. The people at large, the users at large, are now the beta testers. No, they no longer have QA in-house. That's good. Good to know. unpaid work.
Well, the thing that gets me about this, and I don't know if you guys watched them, but I did last week. There was a Cranky Geek event a week or so back, and they put all the presentations online. And, you know, if you're into what Fippo and Justin Uberti and these folks are doing, and even Emil, I think, was there. Maybe not, I'm not sure. Anyway, they were doing some very interesting things. However, the talk about WebRTC and web audio really came down to a long, drawn-out kind of mea culpa. It was like, this stuff is hard, and here's what we've done. But here's what we did, and it didn't work, and now here's how we're doing it. And it's like, so it was this long, drawn-out kind of, this stuff is really difficult. And if you go back 5 or 6 years, when WebRTC was new, there were people going, oh, by the way, all of that you were just, you know, not haphazardly, but you're so blithely undertaking, you know, it's difficult. People have tried. Don't expect it to be easy. So when I see so many years later, this sort of presentation that says, oh, and this is really hard. Yeah, it is.
We told you so.
Yeah. Well, and in particular, things like trying to do echo cancellation when you're at the top layer of a stack that's, you know, a mile deep. And it's all soft, right? None of it's hard. You're better off doing echo cancellation in hardware if you can.
Yeah, but echo cancellation has been a problem since the invention of telephony.
Except that it was largely solved as long as we had hardware-based systems that were not, you know, so much software on top of them. Now, when you're like so many layers abstracted from the hardware, and all of those layers are kind of floating, right? They're not deterministic about their behavior.
No,
it's really hard.
Yeah. Should we need a defined structure of the levels like we have for TCP/IP and network connectivity, like the ISO/SI levels, even for WebRTC, so we know and define especially what is application level, what is carrier level, what is and we define and determine where things are done, because it's the openness of WebRTC that can be made with all kind of codecs or all kinds of methods. It's free, but it's unstructured. I think I've said this before. That's why it's hard, because there is no backbone. Do you agree?
Yes, except that the point of WebRTC was to get away from all of the strict structures and controls that were present in spaces dominated by the ITU, right? So that's a backing into the prior telephony networking kind of world that would be, in some regards, a failure of WebRTC, which is an attempt to move forward and away from that. Actually, there was a good Sahi over at Blog Geek Me had a great post earlier this week that sort of summarized some things. But one of the things he was looking at is all these different services, and realizing that they almost all had some kind of proprietary signaling. And he wasn't really decrying that as a bad thing. It's by design. That's why they didn't specify signaling as part of WebRTC. But anyhow, yeah, the thing he was talking about is, you remember 2 years ago we talked to an outfit called Celebrate, and they had a little thing called Hello.
Yep.
Which was a thing you goes on top of your monitor and gives you a, you know, apparently they've done a Hello 2 next gen device, and it's now running Android and able to load apps and do different things, and WebRTC capable and blah, 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 all that. Which sort of begged the question of, has WebRTC created just all these different islands now because you're left to your own signaling?
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the V word. Why did that have a success? Because
oh no.
Yes, power down for Corrado.
Power down.
I must say, as long as we've had VUC, I have had the intention of buying a standby generator and having it installed, and I have not done it, but we do have UPS.
I thought you had one for when there was, what, the floods or something that you guys were having years ago. Oh, Chrome.
Well, we had, we get hurricanes, and hurricanes lead to flooding, and
you did have you had a generator at one time, didn't you?
We have a portable generator, but what we really want is a fixed installed natural gas standby generator with an automatic transfer. But that's about a $10,000 or $12,000 project that's gotten more complicated as regulations have changed. So we haven't done that. We do have an 8 kilowatt standby generator that, if we lost power for more than a couple of hours, we could fire that up. And I'd have to yell at you over the noise of the thing, though.
Put it outside.
Oh, you need it outside, or everybody dies who's inside. So.
Corrado's back with us, and you were cut off mid-sentence. He's gone again. Nope. Wow, God. Things are not going well for us today. We tried Jitsi. Jitsi didn't work well for anybody. Well, for the two of you, anyway. Which makes no sense to me at all.
Well, making no sense is something we're good at. So
well, not just us, but also... So my fiber cut off, the last 3 days, it's cut off for about 10 minutes a couple of times. And I'm a little surprised because it's been rock solid for the whole year. Now the price went up after the 1 year offer. Chrome seg fault, he said. Okay.
Oh.
Linux doesn't do
over the last couple of days, you might appreciate this, Andy. I installed... I had my first interaction with a Ubiquity Networks cloud key.
Yeah.
That's a pretty neat little widget. And since we have Ubiquity access points, and I'm looking at buying some Ubiquity cameras and probably getting a Ubiquity switch down the road. The Wi-Fi, managing the Wi-Fi in the light of the trouble I was having with my Pixel, which had the app for managing the Wi-Fi on it, I decided to get the cloud key and tinker with that. That's pretty neat.
Cloud key is hardware?
Yeah. Actually, I can show you probably. Just a second. Let me turn on the...
I have a Ubiquity access point. It's wired via Ethernet, but I don't have a cloud key because I have just one piece of hardware.
Well, my impression was you don't need a cloud key. You didn't need a cloud key, and I technically didn't. That's true. But what I found was, and we're going to have to do this without audio. No audio from Pixel, local Pixel. Where is it?
This is the Unify. Whoops. Let's see if I can get. No good way to do this, I think. Oop. No, there's really no good way to do it.
Now, why is... Oh, hang on. I'm holding it upside down. That's why. So, here we go. I'm going to cut to...
Oh.
Oh, goodness. No audio. Turn off the audio. There we go. So, there are your dogs. Your moment of zen. And the cloud key is, in fact, this little widget, which is hanging off a PoE inserter right here.
Oh. That's why they call it a key, I guess.
Yeah, it's really like a Raspberry Pi.
Mm-hmm.
It's loaded with a custom sort of version of their operating system that phones home and then gives you remote access to configure all the Ubiquity gear on your network. And even if you were like in Corrado's circumstance, you put these at all your customer sites, then you log into your Ubiquity account through their portal. Hang on.
So are those active all the time? I mean, if you took that out now, does it affect any of the performance of your devices?
It does not, no. They are active all the time from the standpoint of they're there, but they're really sort of like they're like a connector, right? Oops, wandered off. They're a connector so that their web admin thing can get back to, their web admin tools can get back to your network. It's like a persistent VPN connection back in, and they're an umbrella over top of all the Ubiquity gear. So if you have their security gateway, their router or their switch or whatever, that one interface talks to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
That's a pretty cool. It's $80. It's a pretty cool little device, though.
yeah. The reason, they have an app, an Android app, and you can see for the one device I have, it does everything you'd need. But I'm guessing that thing can talk. Could you be someplace else and talk to it and say and look at your network from? Is that right? That's what probably
Exactly. And if I were providing services to multiple businesses, that one login at unified.ubnt.com would let me be able to pick amongst a list of my customers and admin their sites remotely. I completely understand, how Ubiquity has become such a player, given that it's just so easy to use now to do all this stuff. And even like remote updates of firmware and configuration stuff, all very easy.
Yeah, we should get somebody from them on one of these days. It's not VoIP, it's just general interest stuff. It would be interesting to talk to them. I do like their access point. It's really nice. It's actually basically, I was going to say Wi-Fi repeater, but it's not. It's connected to the Ethernet and offers Wi-Fi. Supposedly, you can have all the same names on all the different ones, and it switches transparently. That, I'm not sure how well. Maybe it works if all of them are Ubiquity, but it works less well if they're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have two, and that's the reason why one of the reasons why I want to try the cloud keys. We have one in the house and one in the office, and I need to add a little something in the front yard because our Wi-Fi is problematic when you get out to the edge of the property, specifically because we have metal mesh in our windows. The front of the house is basically a Faraday cage. And if I want to do anything Wi-Fi-ish in the front yard, I need to extend it. So that was sort of one of the thoughts.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just going to say, what you really want is something up on do you have a chimney or something up on the roof you can put external device, an IP65 enclosure?
Yeah, well, we have a front porch, and so the idea would be in the short term to put like what do they call them? They're like a little micro AP repeater that I could put on the porch, and it's just a PoE powered thing. But also, if we end up getting this fiber service as a backup, then I'll have a Ubiquity wireless link off to where that service is delivered, which is about 1.5 miles away, which will mean putting a little Ubiquity, what do they call them? They're the AirLink radios on the chimney as the received site for that. So that would be, it's sort of moving all down this direction, I guess.
This service you said something about fiber as a backup? No? What?
Yeah, there is a fiber provider in our neighborhood. Well,
but he wouldn't go to your house, is what you just said, right?
Here's the sucky thing. I think I've described these guys before. They're a good company. They do a residential business. If you happen to live along their fiber path, they'll hook you up. $99 a month for gigabit symmetrical, sort of corporate level SLAs. Very nice, very good people to deal with. If you don't live right along the path of their fiber, they'll put you on a list in case they build out in that direction some year soon, but the general sort of answer is forget about it. So what I intend to do is actually make a deal with somebody who lives along their path. I will buy the service, hook them up, and then use a fiber link to bring it back to me. Yeah.
Radio link.
And they're available. They're literally 1/4 mile across the highway on one side of me is where their fiber nearest terminates. And they're about 1.25 miles to the west of me. And their fiber literally runs up a street there for quite a distance. So I'm like,
well, both of those distances are well within capabilities of point-to-point links.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And the one I'm looking at, the point-to-point link, which Corrado pointed out, it's like $150 for a 500 meg link. That's too cheap to not do it just for the fun of it.
Yeah. Which one did Corrado point out to you? Which one?
It was the what does it call it? Hang on, I have to look at their website. So that's not good.
Well, there are loads of different point-to-point link devices around and operating at very wildly different frequencies too. In 5 gig band or up 60 gigs.
These are just 5 gig things. UBNT. I think it's curious because they break their products down by sort of user category, and in order to get to this, I have to go to the operator section of the website. It is called the Lightbeam. What is it? Down here, scrolling down. Hang on. Lightbeam 5AC Gen 2. Just a second. I will share a page with you. How do I do that? I'm over here. Share that. There. There you go. 5AC Gen 2. $65 each endpoint, under $150 for 2 of them. 5 gigahertz unlicensed. And there, Corrado's got them right there. I'm looking at that going. I've actually put them on my Amazon wish list for Christmas, hoping that my wife will get me 1 or 2. But she's a little pensive about using it as our primary ISP, so I've told her I'll do it as a backup.
She won't notice the difference anyway.
No, not in the least.
There's never a problem if you have, well, maybe you don't have fog there, but heavy rain, stuff like that. That's not.
None. Zero.
Apparently, at 5 gigahertz, water doesn't come into play.
No.
At 2.4 gigahertz, leaves though are like little bits of brick wall.
Yeah. No, that goes through leaves, goes through snow, goes through hail, goes through wind, goes through anything. I have a link that is 1.6 miles in rural Scotland in all possible weather. Fine.
And these things are small too. They're comparatively small. I mean, they're smaller than a dish network receiving satellite or an AT&T, satellite TV receiving satellite. Receiving dish.
Sounds like a good idea.
Again. It could be fun. And once we have that kind of connectivity, then I can think of creative things. For example, there's a community center about 3/8 of a mile that way, southeast of us. And we had this idea, it's where the birders go on the weekends to look for different birds. And we had this idea of putting some bird cams up in nests, because there's a great horned owl over there and hawks and stuff. Putting some Wi-Fi enabled bird cams over there, except they don't have any Wi-Fi. And I'm like, I'll send you Wi-Fi, damn it. Just put that thing over there. Send it on its way.
But if the birds fly through the beam, it'll be fried.
Keep them warm in the winter.
Fried chicken.
So I think they're all right on 5 gigs.
I don't know. You want to walk by there?
Yeah, that's fine.
See if anything heats up?
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of power we're talking about. Poor Corrado. Having trouble. Well, I'm having trouble keeping up too. Because we've been, how late did we start? We got not too far from an hour.
A quarter past.
What else does anybody want to talk about?
Well,
public.
I just think that we're suffering because we dared to mention retro products. And the retro products always went wrong. So everything has gone wrong today.
Yeah, but it went wrong before we mentioned all that stuff.
And now you're being picky.
So there's no causation.
I'm not sure. There's some retro products that I really like. So some I'm glad to see gone, but I liked my mini disc stuff. They're just not practical anymore.
DAT recorders were good.
I looked
DAT
up.
recordings were lovely.
Too bad they were taped.
Yeah, they were. I looked up cassette tapes to see whether you could still buy new ones. And apparently, like in Wilco, yes, you can. Local stores to us, you can buy 5 Maxell UR90s for £4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you get on eBay and look for the higher end tapes, like the if you're looking for Maxells like the XL2Ss or TDK SAXs or TDK MAs. The high fidelity ones, they command a premium on eBay.
I'm sure they do.
You know, in the professional recording area, for example, the Tascam stuff had their own. They were basically video cassettes, and those are quite expensive. Well, they're not ridiculously expensive, but first of all, you can't buy them in the supermarket or the drugstore anymore like you could once, or almost. But they're fairly expensive, and there are companies that specialize in offering these. Because I bought one when we were recording in Paris. If my friend has an 8-track, I think it's Tascam. I mean, how many companies made those?
Sony, Atari, Tascam.
Yeah, I think it was Tascam. Very common, something 8 in the name, and it uses video cassettes, but I think they're branded in a way that they're like, oh, God, there were so many different formats for video cassettes too, right? They were about the size of the larger video cassettes, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And because I have a camera here. I got 2 older cameras. One's an analog. What are those called? Camoscope in English? Is that the right word? Analog camera, an analog video cam. I think in French it's camcorder. Camcorder, yeah. It's got tape, big tape.
All right, yeah.
And I've also got one that records both on memory and on digital tape, which is much smaller. Digital video tapes are smaller than audio cassettes. Anyway, long story short, go ahead.
You guys a link. Had to follow up there.
Final records.
I threw it in IRC, even though there's nobody who's listening is watching on that.
That's a company in Toronto that makes equipment that presses vinyl records, and apparently it's one of the last ones in the world.
Well, vinyl, still has a lot of people interested in it. There's a lot of trading going on with existing vinyl, and I'm sure turntables are at a premium. There's somebody makes a USB turntable even. I'm sure you knew that.
Oh yeah, there's a few of those. The thing that's interesting about this is the cutting heads for mastering, for making the masters. Those haven't been manufactured. They have a Neumann one. Neumann is wonderful equipment. They haven't been manufactured in about 40 or 50 years, and it's got to the point where they've inventoried all of them in the world. And if somebody wants to sell one, there's a bidding war.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A frightening thought. The vinyl that you use can actually be reused. Why would you do that?
To save the planet? I don't know.
Well, yeah. Okay.
I didn't hear that there's an app. Those stripes on the image. Stripes to sync your turntable. There's an app apparently that will do that. Do you have a turntable, Michael, by any chance?
I do not, but my brother-in-law does.
Well, there's this app. Of course, it's probably an iOS app, so that doesn't do you any good. But anyway, the point is, what's funny about it, I heard it on one of the Twitch shows probably. The app looks, you put the camera on the turntable when it's spinning, and it puts an image as if it was on the vinyl, and it stays, it's synced to it, and it tells you the speed. It's kind of the visual is cute because the visual always stays balanced. It's kind of a funny, cute little thing. I haven't seen it, but it sounded funny. But I have no use for it, and no, it's not true. I do have an iPod, but I don't have.
Actually, this is the thing. I don't know that I can show it to you. This is the thing that I'm quite interested in. This came about just yesterday. There are these guys called Antlion Audio. And what they do, they have made, and I have one here somewhere, these little microphone on a boom arm that you add to your favorite headset. So if you really like these, Koss or AKG or, big old head hugger cans from your studio days, you could literally put this little adhesively mounted boom onto the thing and turn it into a headset.
Is it cordless?
Well, traditionally they aren't. On Thursday, they launched this cordless one, which it has a Bluetooth radio link, and that's the little thing in the front there is the Bluetooth receiver. It's Bluetooth using aptX, which is owned by Qualcomm. aptX, they've actually gone to the trouble of using a full bandwidth microphone and a full bandwidth radio channel. And so I'm going to end up trying it just because it's the first thing that around that'll be better than one of these.
I wish it wasn't Bluetooth because I've got 2 cordless headsets, you know, those Sennheiser radio sets, but they're not Bluetooth. They have a receiving unit that.
Well, this one has a little receiver, and they don't intend you to use it with your phone because you don't know if your phone is aptX capable.
Right. What does it connect? Is it USB or something then?
Yeah.
The
USB interface.
Oh, so it looks like a USB mic.
Yeah, it looks like a USB mic to your computer.
In other words, is the internal channel is Bluetooth. We don't care about that. Still radio anyway.
Right. It's a radio link, and they claim the link distance is 10 meters typically, but can be much longer.
And what kind of price range are they talking about? 200?
No, $120.
That's within a reason if it's good quality.
Yeah, and it's the idea that it's full bandwidth, because I've had a handful of people come to me and say, you know, I would like to use a headset, but the microphones on headsets are limited to quote unquote HD voice.
Well, they're not, they're definitely not optimal, that's for sure. Plus, like I say, if you've got a headset like this one, which is wireless, you know, this will go, I could almost go upstairs with it. So it starts to have problems with too many walls, but you could, it'd be very handy to be mobile in that way, yeah.
So these guys are, I mean, they're addressing a gaming market, and that's where all of the better headsets come from that space, because that's where this
so your microphone needs to sound good in the gaming environment. Why?
Discord. Because you want to be able to yell over the guy who's shooting at you.
Okay.
And latency is a big concern in the gaming market because all these games are fast moving.
Yeah, that definitely would be. By the way, this would be no good for that because there is latency. You can hear yourself back a couple of milliseconds, I'm guessing. It's just enough to have a little echo, but you can get used to it. But I mean, it might be a little weird.
I just, for $120, I'll buy it just to tinker with it.
That'd be worth it. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. We'll try it on here and see how you sound.
I'll just sound like me, which is no help. But
oh, actually, you sound good on this mic. You sound fine on it.
This is the one that I've used for so many years. This is the new one, which I actually use with my Polycom phone, and I kind of prefer it. Although Corrado says I sound bad. I haven't sorted that out. Corrado's microphone, which he did a little solder job on, always sounds to me like there's a hamster on a wheel in the room behind him. Have you noted that, Andy?
I have a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it always sounds like there's a squeaky hamster wheel behind him.
Maybe there is. Turned off the power.
Yeah, he forgot to feed it this morning. That's why he lost power.
Okay, any new business or old business before we shut down for the public part?
Well, tomorrow's the weekend.
Yeah, it's Friday. That's already something.
1st of December.
Oh, right.
Oh, dear. Does that mean I have to go out and buy an advent calendar or something?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, no, it means in my case, it means my data plan rolls over and my phone will go back to having full 5G. Let's not talk about that. It makes me upset.
You managed to, why? Well, how much data do you have a month?
Apparently, I'm on a plan that allows me 5 gigs, and I surpassed it. And not only did I surpass it, but they have this thing they call data stash, where you can roll over your unused data from prior months. And I burned through all of that. Let's get off air before.
How are you doing that, though? How are you using so much video? I mean,
porn.
Because you work at home, as far as I know, right?
Well, bear in mind, since the end of August, my Pixel has had a problem, quite a serious problem of of burning through its battery when the Wi-Fi was turned on. So I've not used Wi-Fi quite a lot.
Okay, that
Yeah, I still have all of the things going that I normally would go. And I've noticed in the last week that my battery life has improved substantially, which flies in the face of my agree to disagree with Google about, they say that the battery itself needs to be replaced, and I say that their firmware stinks.
Under warranty, Michael, the battery needs to be replaced. How old is it? You're older.
No, not under warranty. It'll be 2 years in January.
Do they want more than $100?
No, it'll be about $80 to replace the battery. But you know what? I'm not going to do it just because they say so, because they are full of shit. In this
well, also, there's other reasons, like maybe it's not a good investment anymore for you.
I could buy a whole new of these identical. I could buy a whole new Pixel for $250.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that because it's a 2.5-year-old design, and I'm not going to give them all the money for a new one. And I've asked a couple of questions. I've asked, should I stay with T-Mobile, or should I maybe try Comcast's mobile service, since I can bundle that with my internet service?
Right.
And Mark Abrams came back and suggested I try Google Fi. But frankly, after this experience dealing with this Pixel, why do I want to reward Google yet again?
Well, Google Fi, as you know, I tried it. I can't use it here. It's not interesting. It's not beneficial to me here, but it is actually a pretty good deal. By the way, they refunded me the $14 for some reason. So they were straight on that anyway. But the point is that their service was a reasonable price, and they have perfect rollover. As you know, that's the big attractive thing. If you don't use the, whatever it is, 10 gigs or whatever it is they give you, or is it 1 gig? I don't even remember. That all collects up for you, so that's not a problem. Well, that's ridiculous that you can't use Wi-Fi, though. That is absurd.
Well, and it's not that I can't. It's just that when I turn on Wi-Fi, it burned the battery down. Now, this happened for 3 months.
Yeah.
And Google support was completely intransigent. They basically blew smoke at me and said replace the battery.
But if you turn the Wi-Fi off and the battery isn't underperforming, then it can't be it's the radio or something to do with the software, right? Obviously,
yeah,
did you redo the full reset by any chance? Because that's so painful.
Yep.
Nobody does.
Yep. And I was on the cusp of, but I haven't flashed it back to Oreo. That would have been my next experiment, to flash it back to Oreo and see if that changed it. Because it happened at the end of August in a firmware update. So it's even possible that earlier versions of Pi would have done it. But if I flash it back to Oreo, then it won't upgrade itself to Pi without me sort of agreeing to that.
Wow.
This is a lot of PETA for something that they have a problem. Tons of people in the forums reporting the problem. They're not owning it. It's sort of bad corporate.
Oh, really? So this is a common complaint?
Oh, yeah.
Of that year, that model, right?
The Pixel and the Pixel XL and the Pixel 2 as well.
But those are a couple of years old, all of them, right?
Well, this one is 2 years old. The Pixels are only a year old.
Okay.
And the Pixel 3s are like $800 and something, and there's just no way I'm going to pay $800.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really a racket, the whole cell phone thing anyway. I've got 3 pretty good phones right now. One of them I bought, I didn't really need it. It's got the American radio frequencies in it. So, it was good for that. And I bought it through Fi, by the way, $200 for that, $220 for the G6, right? Good phone. Those are probably around $200 new now anyway, actually. It's a very good phone. But anyway, in fact, I could send you that maybe. Maybe we could
I don't know. I'm not due for a new phone for another quarter anyway. If this one, I would happily keep using it as long as the battery lasts, and since it is lasting better. I only noticed it this week that before I would take it off the charger at like 7 in the morning, and it would need to be on the charger by 1 or 2 in the afternoon. But now it's not doing that anymore. Now, like here we are, it's noon or quarter past, it still has 81% of battery left.
You've
So
tried different chargers, obviously.
Yeah, but it it charges and discharge. It charges fine. It's just with the Wi-Fi on, it was discharging, and it used to actually get so warm sometimes that it was like something is wrong.
Charging, you mean?
No, just in general,
getting
when the
warm.
Wi-Fi was on, it would get warm. It was like it was burning through battery.
Something's wrong with the radio or something like that. Yeah.
Well, but they fixed it apparently, because here we are 3 months later, and it's not doing it anymore.
Oh, it's not getting warm anymore, but it's still killing.
No, I've noticed this week the battery life is back to what I consider sort of normal, which it just tells me that it was a problem with the firmware and the firmware updates that have come.
Are we staying live, by the way, Randy?
Well, for now we are, but we should probably kill it unless anybody has any objections. Everybody, for ending the broadcast, say aye.
Aye.
Kill it.
All I have to do now is switch over.
Your death
to
is imminent.
fabulous.
Kill it before it breeds.
Email us, and of course, the typical.